Good Shabbos. This week, the second in command in Hamas was eliminated, al-Arouri or something like that. An Israeli journalist revealed that a number of years ago he got his number somehow, and he called him and had an interview with him for about 50 minutes. He was the chief negotiator in the Gilad Shalit deal that released over 1,000 terrorists for Gilad Shalit. And he told the journalist that he would have preferred that the deal not go through, because then it would have torn Israeli society apart. So, as an enemy of Israel, that would have been preferable for him, the tearing apart of Israeli society. It's fascinating. And this is not the beginning of it. Already in our Parsha, the portion of Shemot, the portion that speaks about the exile of the Jewish people. This is our worst exile, our worst state is in this week's portion. Last week we're in Egypt, but we're still in a good state in Egypt with Joseph and his brothers. Next week starts the miracles, the 10 plagues, and the servitude is no longer as harsh. And then the week after we go out of Egypt and so on. This week we speak about just the harshness of the enslavement. And of course, after Hashem chooses Moshe and tells him to go to redeem the Jewish people, and Moshe argues with God for about a week, and finally he goes and he gathers the Jews, and he says, I'm here to redeem you, and the Jews believe in him, and then they follow him along to Pharaoh, but as he gets into Pharaoh, they all kind of disappear, and he and Aaron are the only ones to come to Pharaoh, and they say, let my people go, and they shall serve me. And Pharaoh gets angry with them. You guys are lazy, and no, I'm not going to release the Jewish people. As a matter of fact, you're going to make it more difficult on them. And as they were meant to make bricks, they were now, and beforehand they were given the materials, the hay, the straw, to make the bricks. Now Pharaoh said that should not be given to the Jewish people. No bricks for them, and they're going to go no straw for them. They're going to go have to collect their own straw. And just like the Nazis had capos who were in charge of the work of the rest of the Jewish people, so too Pharaoh had Jewish leaders who were in charge to make sure that the Jews attained their quota of bricks. The difference was that these Jewish leaders were actually kind to their fellow Jews and would not pressure them into making it. And therefore, when the Egyptian taskmasters beat someone, they beat these leaders because the quota wasn't filled, and the leaders who were meant to make that happen didn't. And so these Jews were beaten. These Jews can't go, these leaders go to Pharaoh and say, what happened all of a sudden? Why have you made it much more difficult? And Pharaoh says, you guys come and tell me you want to go have a holiday. You guys are lazy. That's why you have time to think about it. No, I'm going to put the greater effort into you, a greater measure of decree on you, and then you won't be lazy and you'll put the effort into work. When these Jewish leaders come out of Pharaoh, they see Moshe and Aaron, and they start fighting with Moshe and Aaron and says, look what you've done. You made things worse for us. Why did you have to come? Boom. Pharaoh did what Hamas wants now. A discord amongst the Jewish leadership. They're arguing amongst each other. Just like Hamas saw, we were arguing amongst each other. Just like what they wanted, that with Shalit, that the discord amongst Israeli society. And today, the pointing of fingers of who is the cause and why, and the recriminations of that nature is actually the greatest gift we can give our enemies. It went so far that Moshe then comes to Hashem and says, why did you send me? You made things worse. Hashem says to Moshe, you're going to see what I do what I'm going to do to Pharaoh. And by the way, only to Pharaoh, not to the kings in Israel. And here is where the decree, Moshe not going into Israel, begins. You're going to see what I do to Pharaoh, because he's going to release the Jewish people with an outstretched arm. I'm going to get him to release the Jewish people. But it won't be easy. He's going to harden his heart. And we're going to have to go through many miracles, many of the 10 plagues, where the 10 plagues will have to come upon him before he will release the Jewish people. So here we see how Pharaoh's plan worked. But ultimately, this darkness, this negativity, brought about the redemption. The Jews going out of Egypt, getting the Torah, and going into Israel. And today is the yahrzeit of the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe says, he explains that after the first destruction of the temple, we were in exile for 70 years, and then we had the second Commonwealth. And after the second destruction of the temple, well, in his time it was over 1,700 years. Now it's well over 1,900 years that we are in exile. And what he says is this exile is not just an exile as a punishment. This exile is a preparation. There's a preparation for something greater that will happen thereafter. And being that this exile, we're going to have the revelation of Mashiach, which is the greatest revelation that we've ever had on earth. Hence, we have to go through a process of a refinery to bring us to the level that we're worthy of this incredible revelation of Mashiach. Indeed, our sages tell us, just as when I took you out of Egypt, so I will show you wonders with the ultimate redemption. It's interesting, the Medrash says that Mashiach, that just like Moshe Rabbeinu, after this story that I mentioned happened, he disappeared for either 3 to 6 months, according to different Midrashes, and only afterwards reappeared. And the fact that he disappeared made a tremendous concern amongst the. Here was our Redeemer, and he's gone. Well, today, as we come towards Mashiach, we also have concealment. First of all, 30 years ago, the Rebbe told us Mashiach is on his way, he's imminent. And since then, well, he hasn't come. And we see what's happened now. It's a terrible event that took place on October 7th. We see anti-Semitism spreading throughout the world, which, by the way, is said by Rabbeinu Bechaya hundreds and hundreds of years ago. One of the great commentaries on the Chumash from 800-900 years ago says that before Mashiach's coming, there's going to be anti-Semitism throughout the world. But ultimately, what's going to happen is just like before the dawn. It's the darkest, it's the coldest. So too, before Mashiach comes, is when you have the harshest decrees, the most difficult times. And so, what that means to say is that right as we come to this time of exile, we have to realize that what's just over the horizon. Over the horizon is the incredible redemption that we're all going to see. But we must first strengthen ourselves and be united. It's like the soldiers, I saw clips of soldiers in the army saying, please guys, don't point fingers on each other. Don't hate each other. Don't argue with each other. Those of you who are not fighting in the war, we have to be united and we have to be at peace with one another. Yes, we should debate, but we should not be disagreeable in our debate. We could say, this is my opinion, this is your opinion, but we still have to care and love for each other. We're in this together. And the soldiers get it. All the soldiers in the army get it. Now it is for the rest of the people to get this too. This message, not to give them the victory of sowing discord amongst us, not to fight amongst each other. That's the key now. I tell the story of a wealthy Jewish fellow who the wheel of fortune turned on him. And slowly but surely he lost all his money. He had to sell his house, and he had to literally go from door to door collecting money from charity just to be able to survive. One day, on a Friday afternoon, he goes to the mikveh. In the mikveh, you have many people going, and they take their clothes off, and they go into the pool. And as he comes out of the pool of water, he sees his clothes has disappeared. Someone had taken it, maybe by mistake, maybe not. Anyway, he has no clothes. So he realizes that all of a sudden he has no clothes. He gets up and he starts dancing. The people in the mikveh see this guy dancing, think, oh my gosh, this guy must have had a nervous breakdown. Look, he's had a terrible mazel. He lost all his money, and here he is dancing in the mikveh naked. He must something's terribly wrong. So the people had mercy upon him, and this one brought him a pair of pants. This one got him a shirt, and so he was able to get out of the mikveh and have some clothes. Thereafter, he started. All of a sudden, things started to go well for him, and the wheel of fortune turned again, and he was successful once again. So once a fellow said to him, I remember that time in the mikveh, I was there and I thought you went crazy, but now I see you're perfectly normal. What happened? He says, I didn't go crazy. What happened then was, when I was in the mikveh and I was totally naked and I had no clothes, I knew that I hit rock bottom. From here, the only way is up. And so therefore I started dancing because I knew it can't get any worse. It will only get better. Like joke they say, what's the difference in a Jewish optimist and a pessimist? The pessimist says it can't get any worse. The optimist says, yes, it can. But chas v'sholom, that's not the way. A Jewish optimist is actually someone who says, we're at the bottom. From here on in, it's only getting better. That's our attitude. That's how we have to see it. So from all this that's taken place, we have to know that this is the dark before the light. We will have the great light, the great unity, and through that, the great light that will come with the arrival of Mashiach imminently. And everything that's happened is leading us to that great revelation, that time when Hashem will reveal to all of us. Good Shabbos.